In the coming months, Social Security offices around the country, including Oklahoma City, will be notifying Social Security recipients that their checks will be cut. It's all part of the Reagan administration's plan to help balance the budget. Many of those recipients are wondering just how much of a cut and exactly what do they do now. The cuts probably won't start until April 1st. That's when there will no longer be a $122 minimum paid to those who receive checks. The paperwork to refigure what Social Security recipients will be receiving is very time-consuming. But basically, a person will be paid a benefit based on just what he or she put into the Social Security system annually. So now a benefit could be as low as $25 or even lower. But officials say not to worry about being cut off without alternatives.
Now, nationwide, it will be about 3 million people who will be affected by this. But of this 3 million, it is expected that approximately 2 million will receive increases in other benefits to offset the reduction in the minimum benefit. Of the remaining million who will be affected, approximately half of those could qualify for additional benefits if they chose to file for them. Of the remaining 500,000 who will suffer the dollar cut, the majority of these are people who receive federal retirement pensions already.
Johnson also says lawmakers are considering making the Social Security cuts include those only who apply after April 1st. Czar Langston warns the government should be careful of any Social Security cuts. He's a candidate for the Haired Legislature, which looks out for the interest of older people. Langston says alternatives are not always acceptable.
Well, there's some people, I think, that feel that we get into that SSI, that it might be a welfare program. I hope they don't do that, because some do not want to be on welfare. And I hope that they'll take this as something that they've earned and that they will accept it. But all these things are yet to be taken care of through legislation, and I hope Congress does not let the senior citizens down at a time like this.
Ed Stewart, Action 4.
I'm not going to settle for second place this year.
I came out here to win. I didn't get to much sleep last night, thinking about it.
I've never won anything in my life like this, but it'd be a pleasure if I had a chance to. I'm going to try. These are real nice trophies.
So, y'all ready? Let's go.
Huh?
You're in second place by 2 inches.
Second place?
Today was the first day of the trial, with federal judge Lee West presiding. A jury of 8 women and 4 men was selected about 2:30 this afternoon. Jury members listened to opening statements by the prosecution and heard testimony from the first witness, John Lewis, the fugitive who'd escaped to Colorado and the focal point of the trial. Senator Stipe has said all along that he is innocent of the charges against him and that the federal government is out to get him in a series of vendettas. Stipe and his attorney, James Lynn, came out of the courthouse moments ago. They said they were pleased with the first day's proceedings, saying it is clear the prosecution does not have the evidence to bring Stipe to trial. That's what happened the last time Stipe faced criminal charges, and his attorney thinks it'll happen again.
I don't think the defense will ever have to prove anything in this case. I don't think they have enough evidence to ever get it to a jury. I've believed for a long time that the government has pursued unjustly Senator Stipe, and I still believe that.
Mr. Lynn says he doubts the case will last much longer. He says the prosecution is going to have to prove conspiracy, and that so far the prosecution's case is a very weak one. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the federal courthouse. Lewis testified today that he and members of his family raised $15,000 so that he wouldn't have to go back to Oklahoma and face jail. Lewis had been charged with numerous crimes, including the murder of his ex-wife. He says the $15,000 was turned over to Chickasha attorney Red Ivy in cash. He said Ivy told him if he couldn't fix the extradition, he would give the $15,000 back. Under questioning from the defense, Lewis said he and his families got every penny back in cash. The prosecution has spent most of the day calling witnesses who would implicate Ivy. But so far, the jury has heard almost no testimony involving Gene Stipe and his connection with Red Ivy. It should also be noted that the judge can dismiss the case anytime he sees fit, if he does not think there's enough evidence to bring the case to the jury. The only thing established so far is that the governor of Colorado stopped Lewis's extradition. With me now is the attorney for State Senator Gene Stipe, James Lynn, who had predicted yesterday this case wouldn't even last through today. It might be thrown out. What happened today?
Well, the government got through another day, so I was wrong at least by half a day. It may go as long as tomorrow. I don't think they can go much longer.
And why is that?
Because I don't think they can prove what they've alleged.
At what point can Judge West throw the case out?
Well, as Judge Burciaga did in the first Stipe case, when he called on the prosecution to present their evidence, their independent evidence of a conspiracy, they simply couldn't do that, and he simply threw the case out. And any judge can do that.
You've said all along the prosecution doesn't have the evidence to even get the case to the jury. Is it because much of the testimony so far has been on hearsay?
Well, yes. There are two reasons for that. There is no case is the first reason, and the second reason is that they don't have any method of proving, legitimate method of proving anything they might have. They go on innuendo, and they simply do not have a case.
Canadian County is one of 3 in Oklahoma to have all its county commissioners resign in a matter of weeks. Employees of the county are trying to conduct business without a full commissioned staff, and that has caused some drawbacks when it comes to how fast county transactions can be conducted. All the commissioners here resigned after pleading guilty to taking kickbacks while in office. They are Glenn Ellison of District 3, who is the latest to leave office. Ellison also cited poor health. Albert Alberts of District 2 was the first in the county to quit because of the FBI probe. He was soon followed by District 1 Commissioner Wayne Cooksey. Recently, Penny Farrell has been elected to the District 2 seat, and at least for now, she is the only commissioner in Canadian County. She talks about the situation.
Well, due to the circumstances of the county commissioners necessitating 2 commissioners to sign, and since we've not had that privilege at the moment due to the fact that there's only one commissioner here. We do have a backlog of work that needs to be signed by 2 commissioners, but if it necessitates only one commissioner's signature, and in my district particularly, of course, I will continue to do the work as we have been doing.
However, a Canadian county judge says the commissioner shortage is holding up redistricting for the county, and he explains why.
We should fill the vacancy for the existing districts, and then that there should be redistricting in order that we will have a redistricting in 3 approximately equal districts for the 1982 elections. Now, we've had some problems because we set the matter over to be heard today, and we have 1 county commissioner in Canadian County today. Well, under the law, it takes 2 county commissioners to bind the county in any type of form, so I didn't feel like it was appropriate to mandamus that 1 county commissioner.
County officials feel they can handle the day-to-day operations, but are waiting for Governor Nye to appoint an interim commissioner. That person will serve until special elections replace vacant commissioner seats. Ed Stewart, Action 4, El Reno.
It was just 2 years ago that Oklahoma City teachers walked picket lines. The teachers union couldn't agree on a contract with the school district, so the teachers went out on strike. Both sides would like to avoid a strike this year. Representatives of the teachers union and the district have been holding bargaining sessions since April. But last week those talks bogged down, so they called in some outside help. Today, a federal mediator arrived to help settle the disagreement. The mediator's first step will be to find out which issues are still disputed.
These are very difficult issues that the parties have been discussing, and they just simply run out of further alternatives. There's no place else to go. So mediation then is brought in with the hopes that we can find some alternative solutions.
Collette will continue his mediation efforts tomorrow. Sources say he may even ask both sides to meet through the weekend in order to try to hammer out a satisfactory contract before classes begin. Scott Wallace, Action 4.
Six months ago, economists said the price of beef in the United States would skyrocket. But the economists were wrong. Beef prices did not skyrocket. In fact, they've remained steady.
One of the reasons beef prices haven't escalated is because of the increased supply. Ellis Freeney, the executive vice president of the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association, says the weather has had a lot to do with this.
First, Ben, we have an excess supply of beef right now over a year ago, and I think this is partially due to the very favorable winter, spring and summer conditions, weather conditions that we've experienced, and we're seeing ranchers that are shipping cattle early this year that are weighing more than they normally do.
The excess supply of beef may be beneficial to consumers, but it's hurting producers. Freeney adds that cattlemen are competing with other meat products such as pork, poultry, and fish. He says most cattlemen are still losing money. Ben McCain, Action 4.
I'm going to ask the consumers to switch products. You know, we've got a lot of good products in here. In fact, like in Canadian whiskeys, there are a half dozen products in here that taste for taste, I think are so similar it hurts. So I'm saying buy a cheaper product that hasn't been advertised as much, that's just as good if not better. Anytime a major industry boycotts the public, I think they should be chastised, and I very sincerely mean that.
Oklahoma City's FAA Training Center took a small step today towards supplying the nation with air traffic controllers. 9 trainees have officially been graduated, and now they'll be assigned to duty. 9 graduates seems like a drop in the bucket since more than 10,000 controllers have been fired. And 20 weeks of training seems like the long way around to come up with 10,000 controllers. But apparently it's the only way.
Oh, I don't think there's any question that we can do it, given a specified or unspecified length of time. We're geared to train them. They can be trained, and putting them in the field area will answer the question as to how long it takes. Beyond that, I can't go, and neither can anyone else on it.
Not all of the FAA classroom facilities are in use now. Only 144 future controllers are training. That's during the daytime hours. A second shift will soon be added, and later a third, and that would mean around-the-clock training to fill the void of 10,000 air traffic controllers, maybe more. That training process could take more than 2 years. Larry Otis, Action 4.
I was watching television, went on demand, and just all of a sudden was just like a bomb went off, you know, and it just blowed. The impact was, you know, it just vibrated the house so much it just threw me right off the van in the floor, and I went running out the front door because I thought it was, you know, it sounded like it was right next door or something.
Even though State Senator Gene Stipe was cleared last Wednesday of any wrongdoing in a conspiracy case, his name keeps coming up here at the federal courthouse in a series of tape recordings the government is trying to use to prosecute Red Ivy. But the tape recordings are also being used by the defense. Defense attorney Carl Hughes is trying to show that Ivy did nothing illegal. Gene Lewis says Ivy extorted $15,000 to fix her husband's extradition. But on the tapes, Gene Lewis is the only one to mention the word fix, and she did that under the prodding of the FBI. On the tape, Ivy says things like, everything will be up front, nothing will be illegal, I'll put your money in a trust fund, you'll get your money back. As for Stipe, his name is mentioned as someone influential who can persuade the governor's office to help them. Ivy says money isn't important, that politicians work for favors. So the jury has had to work on jumbled pieces of information. That Ivy was given $15,000 so that he would contact Stipe, but what he did with the money after that is a mystery. And the members of the jury appear to be growing weary today, listening to all the phone calls and small talk that went in between. They're perhaps waiting for some short, definitive statement that'll either prove Ivy's innocence or guilt. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the federal courthouse.
Government officials from as far away as Denver and Amarillo gathered at Fort Cobb Reservoir this morning. They were there to help make the controversial chemical application. Citizens Against 2,4-D filed a lawsuit to stop the application, but a federal judge ruled in favor of the government. But that didn't stop the protesters from making their feelings known today.
They have no idea what the rate or the concentration is going to be in the water, and they don't want any evidence of it either. And that's a fact.
The other ones weren't a minute. They were 3 minutes. They were flown into them the whole time. That's why it's different.
Put the camera on that one. That one's way over.
Get out of the way and leave us alone, or we'll have the patrolman take you all out of here. But
Okay, let's throw them all in there. Get rid of the evidence really quick.
Hide the evidence, Tom.
we're not hiding anything.
Oh, you've got completely different rates of flow.
Now, if y'all want to sit over here and watch, it's fine. If you don't, then you can leave.
So
now, I'm not going to ask you twice. I don't care what you think.
I really feel sick in the, pit of my stomach. I'm not going to get a nosebleed. I'm not going to drink the water, but I really had to come out here today just to see the end of it.
So I do see sentiment against this treatment growing all the time.
The president of Citizens Against 2,4-D is advising people not to drink the water from Fort Cobb.
The stuff will cause pregnant women, most likely, to have miscarriages, disformed children, spontaneous abortions, a whole host of birth defects ranging from minor things to cleft palates, misshapen limbs, poorly shaped bodies in general.
But the federal government does not believe 2,4-D is a health hazard. Fort Cobb officials feel the 2,4-D application is the best method to destroy the water weed in the reservoir. The chemical was used in 74, 75, and 76. The weed is reportedly a health hazard to boaters, skiers, and swimmers. Despite protests and a lawsuit, Fort Cobb officials are finally getting to make the chemical application. They'll continue the spraying tomorrow. Ben McCain, Action 4 at Fort Cobb Reservoir.
Liquor by the drink is illegal in Oklahoma. Nevertheless, the law is broken every day. Restaurants and clubs make millions of dollars in illegal sales. Richard Crisp is charged with responsibility of busting those clubs and the people who work there. It is not a popular job, and Crisp complains constantly he doesn't have enough people to do a good job. Now there's pressure on Crisp from people who think he's ineffective and that he is not enforcing the law. In the meantime, the ABC board will be meeting in this room tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And a number of people are supposed to come here and ask that Richard Crisp be fired. Well, the chairman of the ABC board says she'll listen to their complaints, but so far she thinks Richard Crisp is doing a good job.
Yes, I support the director wholeheartedly. He has documentation of the actions that he's taken, and I really I have had questions and have always been able to come to the director and to the agency and get them answered, and I feel very confident in the job that he's been doing. I think he's a fine administrator.
Richard Crisp knows people are out to get him, but he says a new director wouldn't do any better.
It takes 2 or 3 years to find out who the players are in the liquor industry, and I've learned that. I know who they are. I know where they're coming from, and apparently that's one of the reasons why they want me vacated. It would take a new director several months to understand the liquor industry or any portion of it.
Crisp says he has no intention of resigning, and he believes people in the liquor industry are trying to get him for what he calls selfish reasons. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the ABC board.
Raise your hand, please.
And I'm going to tell you when to say it, not
Wet, yeah, you hold it. That's a good thing to do. Now I'll touch your mommy. Just a sting a little. Okay, now say ouch. That's right. You did all right.
Just hurt for a minute, didn't it?
That's all right. That's all right. There, you did good. We're going to give you a Band-Aid.
Sun Chase has been described as a quiet, friendly apartment complex, but a couple of weeks ago things started happening here that shook residents up. Cats began to be brutally killed. 2 were burned to death, a third had its throat slashed and was thrown into the apartment swimming pool. The pool is closed now because of damage to its filtering system. Residents and management decided it was time to act.
I had a resident call me and tell me that the cats were being burned. And in the meantime, they had called the police, and they also called the newspaper office. And the police have been trolling out here, and we're cooperating with them in every way we can. And we also have the animal patrol patrolling the apartments, keeping their eye out. And hopefully we've got it solved.
The Volunteers of Animal Welfare are offering a $500 reward in this case. The City Department of Animal Welfare is saying they will seek felony charges against any suspects. But here at the Sun Chase Apartments, they are evicting the people they think are responsible, and they hope the problem is solved. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
It's a warrior's dance, you know, probably preparation for war. It was probably the costume that I'm wearing and the dance that we probably do now is probably a little bit more different. It's mainly for show nowadays, you know, the beautiful feathers and everything. Originally, the dance was done a lot slower and to a very medium tempo beat. And this was the original war dance. But today, a lot of the dress like this is for show, and a lot of the younger ones, including myself, we all go out and do this. The Indians look forward to coming down to Anadarko and to presenting their tribal dances, presenting their tribal princes, which they elect during the winter months. Or the tribal election was held this year. A lot of new tribal directors were elected. It's just a wonderful time for Indians this time of the year.